Welcome back to Primetime News.
Special welcome to folks on OneSpotMedia.com.
Fishermen operating from the Hunts Bay fishing village in Portmore are calling for the government to take action to prevent plastics from affecting the marine life they depend on to make a living.
Some call for an outright ban, while others say education is needed to make Jamaicans aware of the impact plastics are having on the environment. Our reporter Dashan Hendricks spoke with the fishermen today and now joins us live to tell their story. Dashan?
Well, Archie Doreen, the fishermen I spoke with in Portmore today, those operating on the Hunts Bay fishing village, for them, plastic bottles and in particular juice bottles are an annoyance. In fact, one caught a fish just the other day with a juice bottle in the stomach. We'll show you those video. But for the fishermen in Portmore, the situation there is dire. A lone fisherman in Hunts Bay returning from sea, among the last of his colleagues after a long night on the ocean, but in his boat, no catch. In fact, his story is similar to the other 300 fishermen who make a living here in Hunts Bay, Portmore. The fish catch is getting smaller and smaller, and they have to go out further to sea to get it. The fishermen here blame the problem on pollution, and in particular, plastics. From juice bottles to footwear, old clothes baskets and buckets, everything ends up here carpeting the coastline. Those who operate from this beach say when it rains, the Rio Cobre, Duhaney and Ferry Rivers, as well as the Sandy Gully, dump thousands of tons of plastic in the bay, worsening the problem. The impact on marine life in the mangroves is disastrous.
Breeding ground them a mash up. The fish them now multiply so much because of the toxin. So some fishermen go to 2 days, 3 days when they're coming back, no fish.
Earlier this week, I was coming from sea and I saw a fish floating, a red snapper, and inside a bag, a plastic bag. When I pick up the fish, he was inside a plastic bag, dead. He suffocated from the plastic.
Another fisherman, Anthony Robinson, saw the impact recently.
Find one of these bottles inside that jar,
Mr. Robinson said when he made the catch, he noticed the fish's stomach was swollen. He shared this video filmed with his phone, showing his colleagues gutting the fish and seeing the bottle inside. The discolored water shows it was there for some time. For these fishermen on the Hunts Bay, plastics are an annoyance.
Totally, we would ask the government to ban plastic in Jamaica. Ban it out of the economy. It is destroying the marine life.
They call for awareness through education, telling Jamaicans that plastics are wreaking havoc on the environment and their livelihood.
Yes, you have people who put them garbage in bags and dispose it in the correct location, but what about those who just put it in their cars and they just throw it at the roadside, throw it in the gully, throw it in the stream? It come right here.
When we're ready, we gang it. You know what I say? Because when people think so when we gang things, it's always a bad purpose. So we are the good gang. We gang it and clean it up. We cook on the beach and clean it up.
While we were there, a fisherman showed us how the beach is cleaned.
Government will ban single-use plastic bags in the retail trade. That means Jamaicans will need to get reusable bags when they go to the supermarket. The reactions?
I think it's just a ban scandal bag. I scan bag up around the supermarkets, around the business place, and people have to get them groceries and cannot ban.
You should ban it so you get a better environment.
You should get the alternative first, then you ban it. Yeah, you can't ban it, so what are we going to use now? We used to this, Get used to scandal bag now.
Now, if you're going to have something that's more biodegradable, well, that's more eco-friendly. So if they can find some material in this world of ours to build something more biodegradable, then fine, they can use that as an alternative.
In his written speech, the minister also indicated that regulations will be put in place for garbage bags, and enzymes which make plastic oxo-degradable will be mandatory.
The question of a ban for plastic bags and styrofoam is not an if, it is a when. And Mr. Speaker, I would go further to say it is going to be sooner rather than later.
Plastic on the whole is not good generally because anything where plastic is concerned is very harmful to the environment. So whether scandal bag, plastic bottles or anything that has plastic too. they can ban them all.
We need to ensure that we do proper disposal of our plastic bags. One of the things that we can, or the government can introduce, is to have recycling where you can separate your plastic from your other garbage, and then you have another entity that come in and collect plastic. So plastic can be recycled, so we don't have to necessarily ban plastic in general.
To address that issue, the government is still working on a national strategy and action plan for waste. It forms part of the Plastics Minimization Project, which will be rolled out this fiscal year. Minister Vaz said only 10% of plastic bottles are captured for recycling and export. Since November 2016, Recycling Partners of Jamaica has collected over 1.3 million pounds of plastic waste for export. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Susan Stanley, says the ban on plastic bags is long overdue.
We want more details on how it will be implemented. And of course, when it will come into effect, Minister Vaz has said sooner rather than later. So we want to know when this will happen. Will there be a grace period for Jamaicans? What exactly is it that's going to be banned? Is it all single-use plastic bags, sizes? Is it just a certain size? We'd want to know those details.
Still on the environment, with poor air quality in sections of the Kingston metropolitan area, the government will be implementing a source emission reduction strategy and action plan. Minister Vaz singled out the 6 miles and 3 miles area of St. Andrew, pointing out that poor air quality is mainly due to emissions from motor vehicle and industrial facilities, as well as illegal open burning. He also made reference to the recent fire at a tire storage facility near Riverton City landfill.
The plan targets the closure of illegal sites and the removal of solid waste, including tires, community sensitization and awareness building strategies to address minor sources of air pollution, deployment of additional air quality monitors, and the development of a national program for the environmentally sound management of used tires.
Our top story today, annoying. Portmore fishermen lament plastic bottles affecting fish and their livelihood, while urging the government to immediately take steps to address the problem. Still to come, Dexter gang members remanded after being charged for Westmoreland murders. And in business news, rate cut. BOJ lowers policy rates on forecast of low inflation. We'll be right back.
A voice note on social media warning of cases of yellow fever in Jamaica has been causing panic in several parishes. The message is of particular concern to parents, as it warns of cases of the virus among students. However, the Health Ministry is insisting there is no need for concern, as the systems in place have produced no report of any such case in Jamaica. TVJ's Herman Green has that story.
The yellow fever is very dangerous. There is no cure for it. There is, however, a virus that you will get in Kingston and in Montego Bay.
That's part of the over 2-minute-long voice note that's been making the rounds on social media locally, causing panic among parents and some school administrators. TVJ News was unable to identify the person speaking in the voice message, but the person claims that students at some schools have been showing symptoms including fever, diarrhea, and vomiting, and that parents should ensure hands are washed and sanitized frequently to prevent the spread of the virus. However, the Ministry of Health has rubbished the voice note, insisting that while other countries have had cases of yellow fever in recent years, there are no cases in Jamaica, and that there has not been any for almost a century. Principal Medical Officer for Epidemiology with the Ministry of Health, Dr. Karen Webster Carr, adds that that virus is not spread by touch, but can only be transmitted through the bite of an infected mosquito.
So we don't have yellow fever, and the only way we can get it is if somebody brings it here. And this is something that at the airport we check for the yellow fever vaccine. If you have gone to any of these countries with yellow fever, you should present on your entry into the country a card that says you have the yellow fever vaccine.
She says in addition to the airport checks, there are rigorous checks to safeguard against yellow fever at health facilities across the island.
If there's a case that looks at yellow fever, it triggers a whole set of activities. It must be reported immediately on suspicion So we don't have to confirm or anything like that on suspicion. And then we would set up to test for yellow fever while making sure that person is isolated and not being bitten by mosquito to cause spread.
She also says the symptoms mentioned in the voice note are not those of yellow fever. Yellow fever symptoms, she says, are similar to those of dengue, chikungunya, and Zika infections, flu-like symptoms. So, what of the diarrhea and vomiting illnesses the voice note claims have been seen in schools recently? Have you heard of anybody reporting symptoms of that sort?
We do have symptoms of gastroenteritis, which is what you have just asked. So, but this is not more than usual.
In order to continue protecting against yellow fever, the health ministry says persons planning to travel to regions with the virus should get vaccines at the Comprehensive Health Center in Kingston and at the Montego Bay Type 5 Health Center in St. James. Herman Green, TVJ News.
The Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, says in addition to the internal investigation to determine how 2 neonates came to be on the compound of Victoria Jubilee Hospital, a police investigation is also being done. Describing the situation as tragic, Dr. Tufton said both investigations are necessary to determine not only if there were breaches to internal procedures, but also if any criminal issue is to be pursued.
I will leave the investigations to take place, but I certainly would want them to get to the bottom of it, and if there is culpability, whoever is responsible should be held to account. But it's a really sad situation, and one that literally pains my heart to understand that this could have happened within an institution.
16 members of the Dexter gang, including 4 women, were remanded when they appeared before the Home Circuit Court today. One of the detainees was released. They were answering to charges in relation to several breaches of the anti-gang legislation and over 35 murders in Westmoreland. TVJ's Kalisha Williams reports.
They are deadly and they're migrating. Members of the Westmoreland-based Dexter Street gang, which are responsible for over 35 murders and several shootings in the parish between 2017 to 2018. The police revealed the gang has international links, which have been pumping guns and ammunition into the illicit organization.
About 19 firearms and over 4,000 ammunition were found at the Kingston container terminal. An investigation was launched by CTOC, and we recognize that the consignment was destined for Westmoreland.
Since then, the police have been focusing on the 34-member gang.
Our investigation has identified the main perpetrator, the main financier of that gang, who is commonly known as Gargan. He shot Patrick Robinson, who was charged some time ago for murder and was out on bail, and he absconded and fled the island.
13 members of the gang were nabbed by the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Investigations Branch, CTOC, during an operation on May 4. 4 women were among those arrested and charged.
Ayana Ricketts, O.C. Flava, 35 years old. Desma Ricketts, 28 years old. Nisha Ricketts, 43 years old. And Fiona Brown, 25 years old.
Head of CTOC, ACP Fitz Bailey, says other members of the Dexter Street gang have also fled the island. The announcement was made at a media briefing in Kingston today. Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
It's settled. The government and public sector teachers have finally signed a 4-year wage deal after more than a year of tough negotiations. Teachers even took industrial action during the negotiating period to press their demands for a better wage package. TVJ's Krista Campbell was at Wednesday's signing.
After months of battle with the government over an acceptable wage package, all it took was 2 minutes to sign the deal that will see public sector teachers getting a 16% wage hike over 4 years. The signing of the wage agreement scheduled for 10 o'clock Wednesday morning. But with over a year's wait to get to this point, what's another 2 hours for journalists, the technical team, and other representatives present at Wednesday's official signing? At midday, the parties emerged, presenting a united front that would shade what the JTA president continues to describe as a long and hard fight, which saw public sector teachers even resorting to a 3-day sick-out back in March to press the government for a better wage package. The party is now on mutual terms, but why the last-minute delay in signing the wage deal?
It's never agreed until it's agreed. And this morning was a signing. So both parties wanted to make sure that what we signed was what we agreed. So we just had some last-minute editorial changes that had to be made.
The deal now signed, what was the selling point for the public sector teachers, and how much will it cost the government?
Increases of 5%, 2%, 4%, and 5% in the final year. I can get the precise sort of absolute dollar value for you. I don't have it right here on my fingertips, but suffice to say that the way in which the government embarks on wage negotiations is to at first assess the envelope, the fiscal envelope.
There are other items of fringe benefit that had seen improvements, and based on that, the teachers decided that it was now time to accept. We just signed an agreement. What was presented to our membership was basically an offer. And you'd also understand that it's respectful to present this again to membership before the wider public.
So after a 2-hour-long wait, it took as many minutes for the wage deal to be signed between the JTA and the government. The ink now dry on the paper. It remains to be seen how long before details emerge about the signed agreement. Reporting from inside the Finance Ministry, I'm Krista Campbell for TVJ News.
To a primetime news follow-up now, President of the Negril Chamber of Commerce, Daniel Grizzle, has responded to pleas from vendors in Negril, Westmoreland for a market to be built in the area. He says the vendors in the resort town have a right to be frustrated.
It's a shame on all of us to have our people squatting by the roadside selling their goods. They have a right to a proper environment where they can sell their goods.
Mr. Grizzle said the tourism product development company, TPDCO, was approached seeking funds to build a new market. However, TPDCO responded saying the market was not in the current budget. He says alternative funding will have to be sourced.
We cannot wait for another 3-4 years, so we will be seeking our fund independently of TPDCO if it has to be.
One local expert says early detection of kidney cancer can lead to a possible cure. TVJ's Shamela Mitchell reports.
Health Report is brought to you by
Good Care OptiPro 3 has the quality and quantity of proteins to help your baby build a strong foundation for future health.
Kidney cancer begins in the kidneys. Your kidneys are two bean-shaped organs, each about the size of your fist. They are located behind your abdominal organs, with one kidney on each side of your spine. According to consultant pediatric surgeon Dr. Noel McLennan, kidney cancer rarely shows early signs and symptoms.
The symptoms include a mass, a palpable mass in the tummy. 1. Number 2, the child may have pain in the tummy. The child may have blood in the urine, or the child may lose weight, and the child may just not be well. The child is not the usual person that he or she used to be, say, several months ago.
It is still not clear what causes kidney cancer, but genetics seem to play a role. Dr. McLennan says kidney cancer is also one of the commonest types of cancer seen among children.
We see kidney tumors in practically all age group, but the peak ages are usually around 3, 4, 5 years old. And there is another peak somewhere around puberty. But we see around, say, 8 to 10 per year in children. And They usually present at varying stages.
Treatment is usually surgery followed by chemotherapy and radiotherapy. After surgery, the prognosis is usually good. However, preventing the cancer by detecting it early is critical.
When you're bathing the child, even without the child knowing, it's simple. Just rub the hand along the tummy and see if there's any unusual lumps or masses that they are feeling in the tummy, especially toward the side, the flank areas. That many times it's actually the parents who detect these differences and come to the doctor with that information.
With your health report, I'm Shamela Mitchell wishing you good health. Health Report is brought to you by